Hello, this video is a quick demonstration of the fencing and auto recovery process within PVC. So as you can see here, we have three nodes in a cluster. We have HV1, HV2, and HV3. On the left side, you can see a console on HV1 and a console on HV3. And on the right side, you can see the active node logs of each of those three nodes. As time ticks on here, you can see these keep alives being sent for each of the nodes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually trigger a kernel panic on HV3 in order to demonstrate how the fencing and auto recovery process works. So in the very top output here, in the very top left, you can see that HV3, the one we're going to crash, actually has two VMs on it called test 3 and test 6. And you can see in the second output, the node list, that HV3, it's currently in the run daemon state, it's secondary coordinator, and it's in ready domain state with two VMs on it. Okay, so here I'm going to trigger the kernel panic, and you can see that almost immediately this HV3 shell down here on the bottom right has stopped responding. So initially, everything looks okay. You do see a few of these warnings here as the Ceph daemons kind of time out. Now, after about 30 seconds from the crash, you can see here that HV2 has detected that HV3 seems dead, so it starts the testing monitor. And we can see now in the node list, which does take a bit of time because of the shenanigans of the node crashing with Zookeeper, that it is marked dead. And you can see here that HV3 is failing its saving throws. Here we come up on 6, so we'll see that we send a power off to the dead node using IPMI. We wait a few seconds, we check the state, see that it's off, we send a power on, and at that point PVC has confirmed that the state was changed to off, and now we see VMs migrating. So we see that both VMs ended up starting here on HV1. So we go back to the node list here. We can see that the daemon state of HV3 has been fenced and that it's flushed. And if I see the VM list, there are none on HV3. And if I view the entire list here, we can see that the two VMs that were running on HV3 have now migrated to HV1, and they are indeed running here. So if I hop back up in the logs here, we can see a little bit more about what was happening here. So first things first, we send this fencing node 3 via IPMI reboot, so then we send the power off. We wait about 2 seconds, we check the power state. Sorry, wait 1 second, we check the power state. We see that the chassis power is off. That's our first data point. Then we send a power on to the dead node, and we check it again. So we check it again mostly just for confirmation of the assumption of the first one, but we confirmed it's an off state because the first result after sending the power off is that the chassis power was off. So that is what PVC considers a successful IPMI reboot, so we proceed with the fence flush, waits another 5 seconds, then it marks the node as fenced, forces secondary status for it, and it migrates the VMs. Now, we didn't have time to capture this, but actually during this migrate of VMs, the domain state of the node is a special state called fence flush, which is just there to indicate to the system that it is fencing or it is flushing due to a fence, but once that completes, it goes into a normal flushed state. So we have, standard PVC migration stuff, though the first thing we see is that we actually flush the RBD locks, which has to be done, otherwise there will still be held locks for the VM disks. Then we migrate it's technically in start state, but it's powered off, but we migrate it to HV1, and then the actual automatic startup, we see here that the VMs are marked as start and they're now on this node, so when this keep alive happens, it realizes that they are supposed to be running and it just starts them up. So successfully started VM. And now we see that HV3 is actually recovered. So it booted back up. There's some additional warnings. I can watch it and we can see, okay, it's back up. But one important thing to note is that if I view the node list here, HV3 remains in flushed state. So even if the node does come back up, it doesn't automatically try to move VMs back to it. And the reason for that is simple. After a fence, there's a possibility that there is still something wrong with the node. It could have fenced. In this case, it fenced due to a triggered kernel panic, but it could have fenced due to, say, a critical CPU error or a failing memory DIMM or something of that nature. So, there's no guarantee that the node, when it comes back up, is actually in a good state. So PVC does not attempt to automatically restore it to service. That would be up to an administrator to do manually later after properly validating that the node is in service. In this case, as I said, simple kernel panic, so I know that this node is actually good. So we can do, PVC node ready HV3, put it back into service. The VMs will migrate back away to it, and we're in a good state.